Hi guys, today we have a big largemouth bass. My guess is it's probably a female. Usually the larger ones are. First of all, before we start cutting on her to skin her for a mount, we're going to want to get our measurements. You're going to want to get your measurements for your form on a whole fish before you start doing any kind of cutting or anything. There's usually for a fish form, typically for the Mackenzie forms, for a real skin mount, it's usually A, B, and C. C being the total length from lip to tail fin. And so on this fish, it looks like we've got 26 inches will be the total length. If you can see that. We got 26 inches on the total length. And then your A measurement will be from the gill plate right here. As you can see the gills and this gill plate right here to right here where the tail fin starts, right here. So this will be your A measurement. And as you can see on this fish, it's 15. So 15 will be your A measurement. And then your B measurement is the girth. So you usually go from the widest point of the fish, which is on a bass, the dorsal fin sits up here. So right before the dorsal, usually let me move this down so you can see the dorsal fin is right here. So you're going to usually take your girth measurement right before that. What I like to do is I'll pick up the fish. I just run my tape underneath. Okay, I'm going to slide it down. I'm already flipped. Okay. Sure. All right. And what I'm going to make sure you find the dorsal fin and so 18 is the girth of this fish. So like I said, your girth is going to be right in front. The widest part of the fish is going to be right in front of the dorsal fin usually, and the belly right here. Okay, so that's how your basic measurements for your form, depending on what kind of form you get. Usually, like I said, typically the Mackenzie forms, especially for a largemouth bass, they'll want to know total length and then your A and your B measurement. And then that's how you can order. And then of course they'll want to know whether you want it right or left facing. This particular bass is going to be mounted right facing. So I've made sure that the cut is going to be, I'm going to cut this fish, I'm going to have it on the left facing side. I'm going to cut this fish on this side because the mounting side, the part that's going to be showing, is going to be this right side, because this is the side that's going to be showing. Okay, so I'm not going to make any cuts on this side. It's going to be a right facing fish. So I'm going to have this fish, when I go to cut it, make sure it's facing my left. And it's going to be on the left facing side, my incisions, in order to open it up and start skinning it. The skinning's going to be done on the opposite side. And of course, what we're going to do is you remove the eyes, and I usually make an incision along the gill plate here, and all back along here. There's like a bone right here, and I go along here, and then the horizon. You can always usually see on a fish, they have like a natural here on the bass, it's a little higher up. There's a natural line that goes down the middle of the bass, and I usually follow that. And then you'll make a cut, the tailbone down here, and of course on the neck bone here that connects, and then you'll be able to pull all the meat and the bone out, and then you'll just have the skin, and we will go further into that. Also, I wanted to go over some care tips for preserving or freezing a fish that you want to have mounted. The best or ideal way to freeze a fish would be to take a wet t-shirt. A wet t-shirt and wrap it, or a wet piece of cloth, a wet towel or a wet t-shirt, and wrap the fish completely. This one was wrapped in a wet t-shirt. That's the best way to preserve your fish for freezing. You do not want to, put it in a bag of water and freeze it with ice directly on the skin. You can also use paper towels if you want to use paper towels and wrap it in paper towels, but you do not want ice directly touching the scales or the skin, especially on trout. The only time I've ever had a fish completely disintegrate, once I put it in the solution, was a trout, and they had frozen it in water. They put it in a bag of water and put it in the freezer. I know we do that with like our fillets and our, fish to freeze to eat, the fish meat, but you do not want to do that with a fish you want to have mounted. It just, when you go to thaw it out and you go to work on, especially the trout, because they do not have the scales like these other fish do. They don't have the like real big plated scales in order to protect the skin. Trout are more like, it's almost more like skin. They just don't have that protection, and when ice directly touches their skin, it just eats it up. So it really makes it weak, and that's the only time I've had to do a reproduction. I have not been able to do a real skin mount because the fish just completely, I was able to skin it out fine, but as soon as it hit that solution, that water solution, it just, disintegrated into nothing. All that was left was the head. The skin absolutely disintegrated. That's the only time I've ever had that happen. And I ended up having to order a reproduction, which are way more expensive than doing a real skin mount. Yeah, for just the styrofoam for the inside of this fish is about $33, whereas if you did a reproduction, just the airbrush, the whole fish, would be about $300. So yeah, that's a big price difference. So I like to do real skin mounts anyways, because you're getting your real fish, and yeah, I just think they look nicer. But you definitely want to make sure you protect that fish from the cold if you're going to freeze it. You want to make sure you wrap it up. This one was wrapped real well in a damp or wet t-shirt, and then put inside 2 trash bags, double layered in trash bags. So, and of course it wasn't in the freezer very long because this was actually a friend of mine's, and he got it to me within a day or two. So the least time they spend in the freezer, also the better. So that's also another thing you want to keep in mind when mounting fish. I've done I've done a brown trout that was in a freezer for like 7 years, and if it's preserved well, then if it's wrapped well and kept well, even though it may be a little freezer burn, yeah, I was still able to mount it. It still did well for mounting. So you can still do it, but you want to make sure the care of the fish is done properly. You do not want it sitting directly on ice. Thank you for watching us here at KNC Taxidermy. Remember to like and subscribe us here on YouTube, and join us next time for our latest creation. And we'll see you then.